Why did Jesus have to die? Understanding the cross. Good morning and welcome to Sunday School with Erica here on Erica Talks Live. I'm so glad you've joined me today. Last week we began our salvation series by asking, what does it really mean to be saved? Today we'll answer another important question. Why did Jesus have to die? Our lesson aim is understanding that Jesus' death satisfied God's justice while extending his mercy so sinners could be forgiven. Many people know Jesus died on a cross, but not everyone understands why his death was necessary. If he's a loving God, why couldn't he simply forgive sin? Today's lesson answers that question. God's love made the first move. Romans 5:8 tells us that God's love, even while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. That's Romans 5:8. Christ died for us while we were still in our sin. That's the first move. So this is the example of our forgiving God. Our forgiving God, if he wasn't a forgiving God, then he would have left us to fend for ourselves, and we cannot pay the penalty for sin. Here's an illustration. Imagine a judge allowing a guilty criminal to walk free. That wouldn't be justice. God is perfectly loving, but he is also perfectly holy and just. Sin has a price. Romans 6:23 tells us that the wages of sin is death. Sin has consequences and must be dealt with. Guess what? Jesus became our substitute. Isaiah 53:5-6 tells us, but he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep. Yeah, we're like those sheep that go astray. We have turned everyone to his or her own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. Now that's a forgiving God. That is a forgiving God. Jesus took the punishment that belonged to us. Imagine owing an impossible debt that someone else pays in full. That's what Jesus did at the cross. Jesus was the perfect sacrifice. John 1:29 and Hebrews 9:22 tells us that. Romans 1:29 says, behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Hebrews 9:22 says, and according to the law, almost all things are purified with blood, and without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. Can you think about that? Sin is such a detrimental issue that in order for it to be eliminated or canceled or forgiven, blood is necessary. And here is the example of that forgiving God again. He didn't request our blood. He's not requesting our children's blood. He gave us his own son, Jesus Christ, to then shed his own blood to purify us, to cleanse us, to take away our sin. So, to explain how the Old Testament sacrifices pointed to Jesus Christ, the Lamb of God, these scriptures tell us why his sacrifice was so important. Justice and mercy met at the cross. 2 Corinthians, the 5th chapter and the 21st verse tells us he made him who knew no sin to be sin for us, that we might become the righteousness of God in him. Jesus took our punishment so we could receive his righteousness. The resurrection proves Christ's sacrifice was accepted and that death has been defeated. Practical application for us this week. Have we trusted Christ's finished work? Am I relying on grace or my own efforts? How should the cross change the way I live? It does, because we are no longer relying on our own power. We cannot rely on our own good efforts. We learned that last week and we reiterated it this week, that our own good works cannot save us. So as we close out this lesson this week, we want to review that God is loving and just. Sin has a penalty. Jesus became our substitute. The cross satisfied justice and displayed mercy. The resurrection confirms Christ's victory. And as we go into this week, remember again Romans 5:8. But God commended his love towards us, and that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Thank you for joining me today. Next week, we'll continue with grace versus good works. God bless you, and I'll see you next Sunday for Sunday School with Erica here on Erica Talks Life.